So after the Labour Party's massive gain in seats under Jeremy Corbyn, a lot of people came out and said that this proves that Bernie would have won. And I agree. I do think it proves that. But a lot of people on the other side, or I should say not even on the other side, but other people that still consider themselves to be liberals, or in this case, the Hillary liberals, the neoliberals, the establishment liberals, claim that, no, this doesn't prove that Bernie would have won. So I want to break down their argument. So one of the more prominent neoliberals that we hear a lot from is Joy Reid. Now, I already have multiple videos on Joy Reid because she just gives me so much content to work with. Joy Reid is one of these people who, she is consistently wrong. She's wrong all the time. She's good at attacking Republicans and conservatives and good at doing that, but there's no introspection there, and she's not able to understand what liberals need to do to actually win voters. Now, this is what she tweeted in response to someone saying that this proves Bernie would have won. The problem with retroactively applying the UK election to the US election is that it's more likely that, absent a Trump win, the Tories win. So Joy Reid is trying to make the case that Jeremy Corbyn performed well because Trump won an election in the US. Now, do I think that Trump winning has some effect on other countries? Sure. People see a crazy asshole like Donald Trump, and they don't want that to happen to their country. So maybe it makes some of them come out and vote. But here's the thing. Theresa May is not Donald Trump. So right off the bat, that artificial fear that you're trying to create within the UK about Theresa May, the fear that people may have about Theresa May does not equate to Donald Trump. And you're also putting yourself in this alternate reality. The fact is, Donald Trump did win. And you have to look at why he won. He won because of fake populism. Many people, due to the wealth inequality experienced in the US, wanted to vote against the system. They were tired of typical politicians lying to them and not doing anything for their lives. So they came out and voted for someone who was not a typical politician, who was an outsider. They figured, you know what? If I can't get a regular politician to actually stand up for me, then maybe voting in an outsider is going to help. And that is a large reason for the rise of Trump. Now, we know now, and many of us knew back then, that Trump is a fake populist. He still works closely with Goldman Sachs and the wealthy and the elite, and he has no interest in regular people. But a lot of people didn't know that at the time. They just saw somebody who was a businessman and who was not a politician. And that's why they voted for him. And there was no real equivalent to that in the UK election. What you did have was Jeremy Corbyn, somebody who was a real populist. Somebody who actually wanted to present policy and bring forth a platform that would actually invest into its citizens and help people. A message based on hope and standing up for the little guy as opposed to standing up for the elites and the corporatists. But instead of giving Corbyn any credit, Joy Reid thinks this is why people voted the way they did. I would bet May's collapse had more to do with her poodling with Trump, Brexit fatigue, and her overreaction to the terrorist attacks than a great wave of transatlantic socialist revival. And by the way, such a revival was not evident in the US last year, based on the primaries. Okay, so there is so much there to unpack that let me just start at the top. So the real reason Corbyn won is because of voter turnout. Youth turnout was at 72%, the highest it's been since 1964. A lot of those people, I believe 66%, voted for Labour. So when you have a high youth turnout, they're going to vote for the party that has an actual message for them. And the Labour Party had a real message for youth. And it's also worth mentioning that turnout was high overall, at 70%, the highest it's been in 25 years. Your idea is that if May collapsed, then that's because she didn't get the votes she needed. When the reality is, voter turnout was higher than ever. People voted for the Tories. It's not like they didn't get votes. They got a lot of votes. They even turned many seats from SNP to them. But they lost a ton of seats to Labour. So Labour gained a substantial amount of the vote. And that's because the Labour Party actually appealed to people. Anytime there's a voter collapse or a collapse of votes for a party, people don't come out and vote for that party. That is not the issue here. The issue is that more voters came out for Labour than they have for quite a while. So it's not about fear around Theresa May. It's about excitement for Jeremy Corbyn. Now, how do I relate this back to Bernie Sanders? So the reason why this shows that Bernie would have won is because it shows there's a strong populist strain in the world. And that's why I've said even before when Trump won that Bernie would have won. Because Trump ran on fake populism. Bernie Sanders and Jeremy Corbyn have real populism. They have a real message for a large amount of people, a message that actually sticks up for those without wealth and those without power. And it's important to keep in mind, so Bernie didn't win the primaries. Now, I have a video on what the DNC did against him to really cause that to happen, but you can't just ignore everything else that also went on. Bernie Sanders made up a 60-point deficit in a year. He was running against Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton, who has been a celebrity for the past 30 years. Bernie Sanders was practically unknown when he started running against Hillary Clinton. And despite that, despite the fact that the DNC worked against him, despite the fact that he started with no name recognition, he ended the primaries with 46% of the vote. Hillary barely squeaked out that primary. And then, as I've said many times before, the reason why Bernie would have won is because you have to look at the electoral map. So, Hillary Clinton lost the southern states in the general election. Those are the states that she won during the primaries. Her winning those states is the reason she became the nominee. Now, why that's important is because Bernie would have also lost those southern states, most likely. But he would have won the states that Trump won, the Rust Belt states. And that's what would have handed Bernie the election. So really, what the UK election proved is that when you have a strong, progressive, populist who's honest, speaks their mind, and actually fights back against the other parties, then you have a great shot at winning. People are unhappy with the current system. So when you offer them somebody that is willing to break that system, they take it.